So it's only been like 2 weeks since Poppy Playtime Chapter 4 released, and speedrunners wasted no time in absolutely breaking the game to its core. Today we're diving into the heart-pounding world of Poppy Playtime Chapter 4 speedruns to break down the current world record, analyze the strategies used, and see how speedrunners have already been able to beat the whole chapter in under 16 minutes. Let's check it out. So we'll be checking out the unrestricted any % run for Chapter 4 here. That is, to beat the game as fast as possible with any means available, including, of course, out-of-bounds glitches that I love to see. Honestly, when this chapter released, I had zero hope that the runs would be as fast as the ones we saw in prior chapters, since unlike chapters 2 and 3, where the end of the game was either in close proximity to the start, or the game would load between different maps, here in chapter 4, the ending is quite far from the start, and this chapter just streams levels in and out when progressing through the game, instead of loading between separate maps. And to illustrate just how far apart the start and ending are, I'll load the entire game in at once, and excuse the choppiness as my computer struggles to run all of this at the same time, but this is how far the start is from the end. Anyways, time for the speedrun starts as soon as we're able to move in the opening section of the chapter, where it picks up right where chapter 3 left off, with us riding down this lift with Poppy. Anyways, we actually don't stay on the platform here for long, as if you jump and then press the F11 key to toggle between the game being in full screen and windowed mode, similar to the tram clip we saw back in chapter 3, here you'll actually force a lag spike in the game, and after moving backwards mid-air, you'll actually make it onto the back railing here, from which you can then make a somewhat precise jump at the right spot, and by doing this, you can actually jump over the rails here to then fall all the way to the bottom of this intro tunnel. Of course, saving a whole bunch of time that would otherwise be wasted listening to Poppy yap here. Then, once at the bottom, we don't even have to do any jumping or swinging here like the game expects us to, as if we aim around here, we can just grab it from a distance with the grab pack hand, and then we can take it right to the socket here and scan our trusty blue hand in on this chapter's flashy new scanner here to open this door. After this, we'll want to quickly open this door from a distance with the grab pack to save a bit more time, and then we just trek through the caves here like normal, do some swinging and sidling to get to the door here, where we have to burn the rope holding it shut with our orange flare gun hands to now get to the toy graveyard area leading up to the prison. Not much we can really do here to speed things along until we get to the end, where the prison goes into a lockdown sequence, and then you have to fend off a bunch of creepy mini huggies. Well, at least you're supposed to, but after the slowdown from the security lights goes away, we can just run up this mountain of toys, and although it's sealed off normally here, we can actually use one of the mini huggies to our advantage, as if you time a jump properly, you can actually boost off one of them to hop through the door here to skip the encounter and save a whole bunch of time. Next, we, of course, have more cave traversal, a common theme throughout this chapter, and then, after some purple hand bouncing, we get to the train loading area here. Here, we'll want to quickly pull these boxes so we can use them to jump to make our way into this prison cube cell thing with a key, as well as, probably, the most unsettling environmental storytelling from the series so far. And then we can use this key to open this room here to then quickly do the power puzzle in this area that opens up this cell on the train that locks up behind us as our protagonist gets knocked out as the train takes us to the prison's interior. Ollie, who is totally a good guy by the way, yaps a bunch here before we're then introduced to the doctor. And unfortunately, this whole cutscene can't be skipped, so all we can do is wait here for around 100 seconds. But with the power of video editing, we're now inside the prison where we have to pull ourselves up to make it to this vent. Now, a super helpful trick with this and any vent section in this game is that if you stand up immediately after crouching while facing at an angle as you get into a vent, you'll actually stand back up and you'll be able to walk through the vents at max speed, instead of the reduced crouching speed. And although only saving a few seconds at a time, it definitely adds up over the course of a run. Anyways, from here we can start scanning our blue hand to open the door below, but we don't have to stick around here for it to open, so we can make our way back down, go through the door, say hi to the critter that runs in front of us, as well as the pair here sharing a nice meal together. And then we want to quickly drop down to the floor beneath us here, ruin these fellas' dinner, and then we need to pry these boards off here to enter the back rooms for a bit. And you actually only need to pull 2 of these off, as you can squeeze through with the left board still attached. And then you don't need to, but grabbing Limon here always brings a run some good luck. Now, unfortunately, we don't want to bring Limon along for the entire speedrun journey here, as we'll need both hands at several points. But hey, even in these few short seconds, Limon gets more screen time in this run here compared to pretty much every other character. Next, we can enter this room to quickly grab the red hand off this guy since he clearly doesn't need it anymore. And doing this starts up another lockdown sequence where you normally have to fend off a bunch of nightmare critters. But you probably already have a feeling that I'm gonna say we're skipping this, and you'd be right, we're skipping this, as we can actually jump into the cell door on the left side of the area here as it opens to then jump over the barricade to quickly avoid this whole sequence. This jump can be a bit tricky, but just like earlier, here too you can actually use one of the enemies to your advantage to boost over the barricade as well as a backup. Anyways, now we can scan in our new red hand to make our way into the control room here, and thankfully the code is always the same for this terminal, 3255. And this opens the door across from us, but we actually don't want to head there, as this is where things get pretty juicy. So after putting the code in, we'll actually want to head back down to the lower floor, where we'll want to start luring one of the nightmare critters to follow us back upstairs, where we can once again abuse the critters to our speedrunning advantage here, as if we time a jump off of them once again, we can actually jump into the ceiling to get yourself into the void above the entire cell block here. Now this is a lot trickier to do than it may look, and there's some RNG to this, as which characters spawn in are random, and there are some that make this trick easier than others. Ideally, you'll want either Icky Licky, Poe, or Raby Baby, with the mini Huggies apparently being the worst for this. Anyways, once up here, we can traverse the void to get to the central area, and then we can go around it to jump across here to then get to the red cell block area, where we can jump across here at the start to get through this area quickly too, as after getting close to this room, we can actually trip the trigger for the autosave, and as soon as we see the autosave VHS icon pop up on screen, we can pause and reload the last checkpoint to load back in bounds. And yeah, doing all of this out of bounds movement, we actually skip prying the bars to get in here, going through the hallway with all the less than alive security guards to get the key card, and of course the entirety of the red cell block section, which is pretty crazy. Anyways, back in the run, we'll want to do the vent walking trick once again to quickly get through this mandatory indie horror game vent crawl segment. And then, once in this room, where normally you have to move some boxes around to prevent these side doors from shutting, if you run this game at 120 FPS, you can actually straight up just shoot the grab pack hands through the wall to attach them to each scanner, completely bypassing how you're normally supposed to do this. Then, after waiting for the next overhead door to open in this room, we can hop into Yarnaby's observation room, where here, we have to wait again for over a minute in another unskippable sequence. But as soon as it's done, we can move the battery here to the blue socket to power up the next hand scanner we need. And after seeing Yarnaby stroll by and Doey open up this gate for us, instead of going through this vent that we normally have to after debating Yarnaby with the burning boxes here, we can actually jump to the right here and then jump across along this pipe to reach this open vent here, which brings us back out of bounds into the void. And then we can aim at the connection point of this pipe here, and then carefully inch our way directly forward a bit until about here, and this is where the most crazy trick of the run happens. Dubbed by the speedrun community as the NASA skip, basically the game will launch you up sky high at an incredibly high speed into the game's stratosphere, and yeah, basically you just fly up and then fall for over a minute. And this is by far the most inconsistent trick I think I've ever covered on my speedrunning series on this channel, as the trick boils down to timing and doing some precise movement as you fly up and fall, and then pause buffering the game within a specific time window of less than a second, and hoping that you'll pause at the right time for the game to load in the map. There's a really good video guide for how to learn this trick, as you've been seeing, made by Nia, which I'll link in the description if you're interested in learning this for yourself. And with this NASA skip, if you're off by even a little bit, it's pretty much a run killer. So honestly, I think it's quite incredible that this trick was pulled off in several of the recent world record runs. But despite how insanely inconsistent this trick can be, it's well worth it if you can pull it off, as this skips so much of the game. This skips the whole sequence meeting Doughy, going through the prison utility and rec area, and it even skips seeing the safe haven, sewers, water treatment area, and no man's land, which is pretty crazy. But if successfully done, once back in bounds, we can do some fancy movement on these railings to skip right into the area below here, where we can jump grab the keycard here and block the liquid nitrogen in this pipe to quickly get through this section. After this, we get to the morgue room, where there aren't really any speedrun tricks here, so we get our blue hand stuck on the scanner, grab the battery here to power the saw to then cut the other blue hand here loose, so we can use it on the temperature controlled console here. And after zapping the lungs in this room, we can burn down one of the body bags here, and we'll actually want to grab and carry it with us all the way to just before the next area, where we'll channel the spirit of the barrel elevator trick from Chapter 3, as we can actually pull up on the body bag below us to give ourselves a boost up to the upper section here. The developers ended up patching out being able to grab and fly with the barrels pretty quickly in Chapter 3, so I wonder how long it's gonna be until they end up patching these body bags too. Anyways, once up, and after doing a few hops up here, we'll actually want to hang on to the body bag and take it with us on some more out-of-bounds trekking. Now, just the thought of the protagonist dragging along a cadaver out of bounds like this is pretty silly. And we'll take this body bag up here all the way until we can drop back in bounds at the elevator that takes us up to the doctor's headquarters here. And for those that have played this chapter before, we effectively just skipped the entirety of the autopsy maze section, as well as the whole bit where the doctor shocks the player with some traps and having to do the whole segment with Baba Chops. Now we ditch the body bag here for now as we take the elevator up, but don't worry, we'll be back for the bag here. Once up top, we make our way through this TV hallway as we then get tossed down to the area below. But we don't stay here for long, as we can slap this battery in here to open up this gate, and then if we zip around it quickly enough as it opens, we can actually jump boost our way on top of it, and then we'll want to take the battery back out to close the gate again, and then we can move onto it a bit, and then we'll want to put the battery back in to open the gate once more, so we can carefully walk along it and use it to jump off onto these servers or whatever they are, and after jumping across here and then off of these robots below, we can make it over this fence that normally needs all of the batteries found in this maze to open, and then we can get back to the doctor, grab the key card from the computer here to fry him like bacon, and after his death sequence is done, we can head into this room, upgrade our red hand to the Omni hand, and then we can head back down the elevator to get back to our body bag friend here. Now we'll want to extremely carefully bring it with us as we move along this tiny bit of collision towards the rock wall here, as we can then walk right through it to get into this corner. Definitely gotta emphasize caution here, as one wrong move and either you or the body bag will fall into the abyss below, both of which would basically be an instant run killer. Anyways, once in this corner, we'll use the body bag to our advantage to boost over an invisible wall here, and then we do some more out of bounds movement as we drop down here and then make our way just on top of this area, which is actually the room just before where you fry the liver at the end of the autopsy maze area with all the red smoke. And up here, we'll want to use our body bag elevator to boost up on top of the liver room below, and then we'll use it one last time to boost up a bit higher. And this is actually where we unfortunately have to say goodbye to our body bag pal for the rest of the run. So long, buddy. You've been an incredible help this run. Everyone be sure to thank him down in the comments. Now we do some more out-of-bounds movement on top of the red smoke maze below, but we'll actually want to drop back into the maze in a specific spot, still outside of the normal play area. And then once here, personally, I suck at this trick, but you'll need to line yourself up, walk backwards, and do a leap of faith into the abyss below. And then, just like the NASA skip, here too you need to do a bunch of pause buffering, and if done correctly, you'll load right into the slide that takes you to the ending of the game. And just like that, we've skipped going back to the safe haven, the whole foundation section, and even the final boss fight climax with Doughy. But that's still not enough for speedrunning this chapter, as unfortunately down this slide awaits an extremely long cutscene. So what speedrunners actually do here is grab one of the boxes, lower the game's frame rate down to 30, and then backtrack a bit to this door. Now, normally if you backtrack here, the doors will auto-close as you get close to them, but with this box in the right spot, and by getting to the doors in a specific time frame, you can actually prevent the doors from closing after activating the autosave trigger and reloading the previous checkpoint. Then, after loading back into the autosave, with the doors still open here, runners grab the box, bring it as close to the edge here as possible, and then by pulling it from the left side, falling back a bit, and then grabbing onto the door with the blue hand, the box will launch the player high into the air once again, from which they can then drop towards the ending cave section, where you'll then need to make it over to this starting part of it in order to trigger another autosave reload combo to get back inbound. And this skips the whole cutscene with Poppy ditching Kissy Missy and the protagonist once we learn that Ollie wasn't exactly a friendly guy all along. And once we're back inbounds here, the rest of the chapter is pretty much normal as we just scan in our Omni hands to open the door to the lab here, and as soon as we slap the VHS into the VCR here, that is time for the speedrun as we wrap things up with Huggy Wuggy running towards us. Is Huggy still evil? Will he end up being an ally? I guess only time will tell, as we'll probably find out in the next chapter. Now, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, this was definitely the most difficult speedrun of the Poppy Playtime series so far. There are just so many precise and inconsistent tricks here that it's certainly not for the faint of heart or those with little patience like me. But if you can pull them off, the tricks are well worth it as you end up skipping so much of the game. So much so that you don't even visit the whole section that the chapter's subtitle is named after, and the extent of the flagship mascot's appearance in this run is limited to just seeing his hand open up a door for us once. Crazy. Anyways, as of the making of this video, the current world record is held by Danger1451 with an absolutely insane load removes time of 15 minutes and 46 seconds. It's a crazy run and I highly recommend checking it out. For a bit of perspective, just about a week before this record was set, the world record was hovering around 30 minutes. But with the discovery and execution of the NASA skip, which again is super inconsistent, the time was pretty much cut in half. And despite how difficult some of these tricks are, it's been crazy to watch the world record get slashed numerous times in only a few days. There's possibility that with a bit of optimization, the run can be brought down close to or maybe even under the 15-minute mark in the near future. Or who knows, maybe some more crazy tricks will be discovered soon to slash the time down even more. Anyways, that's Unrestricted Any Percent Speedrunning Poppy Playtime Chapter 4, and I hope you enjoyed. If you did, check out some of my other speedrun videos and subscribe to find your way back here in the future. And if you're interested in speedrunning this or any of the chapters of Poppy Playtime yourselves, check out the speedrunning Discord linked in the description to get started. And as always, thank you all so much for running with us today, and I will see you in a bit.